They promised me they would play Eye of the Tiger as we entered stage, so
Yeah.
I think we should do this again. Welcome to the SuperSession, which is it's like a regular session, but I'm told a little bit better. My name is Brian Heater from Engadget. CES 2015 is the loose theme that we're working with right here, so I want to actually kick things off by starting to talk about CES 2014. If everybody can go down, starting with Eric, introduce yourself a little bit and tell us what you're actually showing off at the show.
My name's Eric Mijikovsky. I'm the founder of Pebble. We're the makers of the Pebble smartwatch, which works with iOS and Android phones. We just launched Pebble Steel at the show, and we're getting prepared to launch our App Store at the end of January, which is going to be our first move into helping developers get their apps out to the entire Pebble ecosystem.
Brendan E. Reeb, one of the CEO, founder of Oculus, and we're showing off the Crystal Cove prototype, which has positional tracking and low persistence and creating virtual reality. It finally works.
Michael Buchwald, co-founder and CEO of Leap Motion, and we're showing the Leap Motion peripheral, which lets people control their computers with their hands in 3D space, and also some of our partners like HP are showing products with the technology embedded.
And I'm Avi Reichenthal, CEO of 3D Systems, the company that invented and continues to lead 3D printing. We're showing Brian 12 new products here at CES, from a sub $1,000 awesome plug-and-play cube 3D printer, all the way to completely new categories in chocolate printing, sugar printing, ceramic printing, and 2 new physical photography devices that allow you to basically take full color 3D photos that are instantly printable.
So you guys have all been keeping me busy, but,
yes,
but none more so than Avi. Everybody on stage has a very different level of involvement insofar as what you're actually doing at the show. You guys have a really large booth over in the brand new 3D printing section. Some of you guys are working with partners. Some of you guys aren't actually on the floor at all. I'm curious what brought everybody to CES this year. What actually brings you out to these shows? Why are physical shows still important?
For us, we launched our first product. We announced the ship date of our first product at CES last year. We had a small suite at the Venetian, and we ended up just opening up to our Kickstarter backers. This was last year. We had 3 nights back-to-back with hundreds of people streaming in and out of our small suite, and it was the first chance that we got to meet a lot of these people face-to-face, people who had supported us on Kickstarter, and it was amazing. I mean, everyone was in town. I think we had something like 600 or 700 backers drop by. Out of 69,000 backers, I'd say that's a pretty high percentage.
But I mean, that's one of the nice things that's built into an Indiegogo or Kickstarter is that you're building that excitement as you're really, as actually before you're releasing the product. That isn't enough. The online buzz isn't enough to drive these products.
Nothing beats a good hands-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that high tech goes hand in glove with high touch. And CES is the place to come meet all the movers. This is where you meet your brands, your retailers, your partners. This is where you form strategic alliances. This is where you, for the first time, show not just new products, but concepts, and you get feedback from all the constituents. In a world that is getting increasingly more virtual, I think having an actual component is what CES is all about.
Brendan, you're with a gaming company. Obviously, there's any number of gaming conventions that you can be at, and you guys are at all of them. So, why come to a consumer electronics show?
Well, we think of Oculus more than just games, and here at CES, it's great for meeting a number of people, your backers. We were also a Kickstarter, so it's great to see the different supporters. It's also a great place to meet partners, and then there's a lot of press here, of course. So the press seems to like to talk about us a lot. So it's a good time to meet everybody and show the latest version. Last year, we were showing the prototype for the first time, the actual kind of duct tape, hot glue gun prototype, and this year we're showing a version that's very close to the consumer product. So it's exciting to see how far we've come in only a year and to get that out and show everybody.
There's nothing really beats the excitement of that first. I mean, they looked like ski goggles. They might have actually been ski goggles with these attachments.
we kind of cut a ski goggle at first and glued the headset on. Now it's a little bit beyond just a hacked up ski goggle. So.
How do you build that excitement so quickly? How do you build that excitement before, you've got a marketable product, and B, you've got a product that actually looks like a marketable product?
Well, the technology works. I mean, that's the thing that's held back virtual reality for so long, is it just didn't really work. People's imagination were kind of far ahead of really where the technology was at the time, where hardware was at the time. Hardware now works for virtual reality. We're one of the first companies to bring it to market. And when you show people, people can't help but get excited. We call it, kind of the Oculus face. People put it on and they go, oh my God. And it's a lot of fun to show each iteration as we improve the product. And here we're showing the latest version, the Crystal Cove prototype, where we have positional tracking so you can actually move around, and we also have low persistence, which means you don't have motion blur anymore. And so it's continuing to get better, and it's great to show people and get their reaction and get their feedback.
I think Oculus and Leap Motion are probably the two best examples of products that you actually need to interact with, that you actually need to see in person. I mean, online demos don't really do it, right?
Yeah, I think that's especially true for us, but I think it's true for any really innovative technology product, because ultimately what creates the most emotional power is the fact that you're witnessing magic, whether it's a 3D printer making something out of nothing, or whether it's an awesome immersive VR experience, or a beautiful physical product like the Pebble. You have to experience it, and that's why shows like this are really important, I think.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier, and this is something that fascinates me, because I think everybody here has taken a little bit of a different approach to announcing a product, to iterating a product, to releasing the product. And I know there's not sort of one kind of catch-all solution to that, but at this point, is it better to run out there with your prototype, show everybody how cool your technology is, or do you need to incubate? I mean, do you need to wait until you've got something that's really final, that's coming to market? I mean, theoretically, ostensibly, that's what CES is supposed to be, right? These are, for a lot of these companies, these are the products that we're going to be seeing in the rest of 2014.
Depends on how well it works, I think. It depends on how well your prototype is.
Yeah.
Our prototype, it was more about software, and we had a great amount of software written. The hardware was kind of in its early stage, but when you put it on, the reaction and feedback we were getting was so positive that we wanted to get out there and show people. People were excited to see VR for the first time work. So if it works, get it out and show people.
I guess you've got very different expectations when you've got millions of dollars in backing from regular people. You need to get something to market relatively quickly, right?
Fast.
For us, it was a combination of factors. So we had a large manufacturing task of creating 85,000 units. And then from a design perspective, we built a feature into our device, over-the-air firmware updates right from the beginning. And I think that was one thing that allowed us to kind of unlock the pattern of hardware manufacturing from software development, and making sure that we could constantly provide updates on the software side. That increased our confidence to launch and to show it off for the first time, knowing that over time we could fix bugs and solve problems as they came up. So that's what led us to announce the ship date at the last CES. At this CES, we decided to show off something that we were much closer to shipping, and I think that was just part of the progression from Kickstarter to shipping to working on new products.
As we were saying earlier, the second time is usually a little bit easier once you've got all that manufacturing in place. Avi, you're kind of the odd man out in that you are working for this almost 3-decade-old company. You guys have been doing 3D printing, rapid prototyping, pretty much forever. The consumer space is relatively new for you guys. Where do you land on this? I mean, do you wait for something to be perfect before shipping?
Well, I think that it's not an either or. From our perspective, it's kind of a both and experience, in the sense that we're here launching 12 new products that will be
I saw your eyebrows jump at that one.
That will be commercially available in the coming months. And those are kind of the tried and proven products. But we're also launching some new categories where we need some co-creation, we need some collaboration, we need some crowd involvement, we need some ecosystem involvement. And I think that in this day and age, living in exponential times, the whole question of do you get it perfect, or do you set the universe to harness the collective wisdom of your users and your suppliers and your ecosystem, is going to be an evolving model, because the useful life of products is shrinking. The complexity is expanding, and the time to market is very critical. And I think that we're going to see a little bit of a paradigm shift where users and brands and high-tech companies are going to figure out how to work in shorter, faster sprints and how to leverage the collective wisdom. And you'll see more of a hybridized approach to this at CES, where you see some commercial-ready products, but you also see some products and ideas that are looking for an ecosystem, looking for partnerships, looking for developers, all of that.
It brings up an interesting point. So, obviously for most of the people on this panel, it's a little bit of outside looking in. Michael, I feel like you've had a little more direct involvement with this, in that you're working directly with a lot of PC manufacturers. You're working with some automotive manufacturers. There are some people working with your technology that you may or may not even know about right now. And I'm wondering how much of an effect crowdfunding is having, how that's affecting larger companies now. How much, crowdsourcing, crowd wisdom, crowdfunding is affecting the way these companies are doing business. I mean, are they running to catch up with the smaller companies? Is that why they were so quick to jump on the Leap Motion bandwagon?
I don't know if the reason we've seen partners like HP move so quickly is to compete with crowdfunding, but I think it's more of a desire to innovate and to differentiate. And there are just so many categories that years ago were differentiated, and now are totally commoditized. And we're seeing that happen with smartphones and tablets right now. And these companies are desperate to avoid that fate and to have something that's differentiated. And integrating technology that has come about as a result of crowdfunding is potentially a good way to do that. So I don't think it's that they think that a Kickstarter company is going to create a laptop or a better laptop, but I think that there definitely is a recognition that startups have to be a primary source of technology acquisition.
I was pretty amazed at how quickly you guys came together. As I was saying earlier, the first time I saw your company, the first time I spoke to you was at South by Southwest in March, which, maybe in technology terms that was an eternity ago, but in actual calendar terms was not that long ago. And not only were you guys really quick to actually bring that product to market, but and to describe it a little bit, the Leap Motion peripheral that we originally saw was, I don't know, about yay big. It kind of sits on your table and it lets you do motion controls to interact with your PC. But you were already talking about integrating that technology into PCs, which I assumed was far off. And then a couple months later, these HPs are coming out with that technology. How did things move so quickly?
Yeah, I think it's partially a desire and in some cases a desperate desire to be differentiated, and a lot of it was us working with these companies for a long time. We've been working with HP for probably 2 years in reality, and even before South by, we had created and given out 10,000 developer units, and we're in mass production for the device. So we took a slightly different approach. We didn't do a Kickstarter, we didn't do crowdfunding. We raised a lot of venture money and produced many hundreds of thousands of units, which means that there is less room for iteration at a hardware level, but we were comfortable doing that for similar reasons, because even our product, which looks like a hardware product, is really a software product. And we knew that we would be able to push out software updates, and we still do push out software updates that really fundamentally change and improve the experience.
When we're talking about trends that we're seeing this year and last year, and I've got to imagine will continue to increase in the year ahead. Everybody on this panel is a pretty good representation of that. I mean, wearables are huge this year. Before the show actually started, I probably saw 2 dozen like wrist-worn fitness trackers. We've definitely seen a lot of these displays. I think you guys are far and away the most prominent non-Google company that's making a wearable. Motion control certainly, and obviously 3D printing is big enough. Consumer 3D printing is big enough this year that there's a separate section up in the South Hall next to the robotics. When you're in the zeitgeist, when you're in this space that is everybody's going to kind of be rushing to get involved with, when you know that Samsung is going to be releasing a watch. Obviously there's rumors that Apple's going to be releasing a watch. Sony's probably on like watch number 5 or 6. Does that drive you? Does that drive you to announce this like as quickly as possible, to get out there, to be the company that people think of when they think of that technology?
I think it's a bit of sometimes I think about it and it just seems ridiculous, because 5 or 6 years ago I was working on this in my dorm room and just soldering things together, and to imagine that 5.5 years later I get the chance to chat about this with a lot of people, it's already pretty ridiculous. So if more people are coming into the market, I mean, it's just continuing this awesome kind of validating, very validating, and very, very uplifting, because you see more and more people using Pebble and using wearables, and you think about all of those people and how there's a great chance for bringing new functionality to the body, and basically fulfilling some of our sci-fi dreams from years and years of sci-fi, of how do humans interact more closely with technology, and how does that line between human and computer interaction get a bit more blurred. And I like to think of Pebble almost as an unlikely transitionary device towards a more tightly coupled human-computer interaction. Most people wouldn't expect that a watch that you put on your wrist has a connection to the internet, and I think that's just part of the future.
It's got to be strange, though, investing so much into this device and thinking of it as being something transitional. When we were speaking on the stage yesterday, we were talking about your Intel partnership. You guys released this handheld 3D scanner, and then all of a sudden you're on stage with Intel, and they're talking about an embedded 3D scanner. And Leap Motion is a good example of, again, like having a hardware device, but really speaking about this as a software device. I mean, what's the mindset there if you think you're working on this transitional device? I mean, how far down the road are you thinking?
Pretty far in our case, because we look at it in terms of who's going to own the experience, who's going to have the emotive connection, who's going to empower a sustainable ecosystem, because the nature of exponentials and convergence and Moore's law is that you're going to start with discrete, and you're going to dematerialize and double down, and it's going to become embedded, and it's going to become more of a software, and the kind of traditional lines between a device company and a software company are kind of blurring, and it becomes experiential and platform driven. And the question in our mind is not if it's going to happen, but how do we innovatively disrupt it, impact it, and monetize it? So it makes perfect sense in new experiences and in new use cases and applications like 3D physical photography to start with a discrete device, and to understand that very rapidly it's going to become an embedded device, and it may even become one day an implantable device. I mean, you and I on stage yesterday talked about sensors, and the reality is in an average automobile today you have about 120 sensors. In our body, not so much. But in the next few years, we're going to have all kinds of sensors, starting with wearables and implantables and swallables, and those will allow us to gather all kinds of new data for new use cases in, personalized health, in personalized nutrition, in fitness, and in all kinds of experiences that we haven't even conceived of, and we can't be in denial of those trends. So the question is, how do we become a first mover? How do we harness it? And how do we really leverage exponentials to advantage and not be stuck in a certain device paradigm?
Again, I mean, I think that's something that's maybe a little bit easier when you've got this really large infrastructure. In your case, I've got to imagine it's a lot more difficult for a smaller company. I mean, to use like a music analogy. I'm going to butcher this, but you've got your whole life to work on your first album. You've got like a year to work on your second album. It's got to be really hard, especially at a show like this where everybody is combing the halls and looking for the next big thing to keep up with that, that yearly schedule. I mean, and certainly in your case, iterating these products that right now are only really available to developers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of momentum and pressure to deliver something. So I don't know if you're making a swallowable Pebble yet, but
it's in your future.
by the time it comes,
3D printed, the chocolate
the
printer?
Pebble
Yeah,
stone.
exactly.
I think by the time it comes to market, the technology will be there, right?
Yeah, the chocolate is only a carrier for the Pebble.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure to deliver. I think, like you said, you get a little more time on the first version, except unless you do a Kickstarter or something like that. When you go out and crowdfund, you do set a date, and then there is an expectation to deliver on that date, and that kind of puts a gun to your head that you better move fast and deliver. Most Kickstarters, like us, pick a date that's probably a little too fast, a little too early. You don't know completely what you're getting into. Maybe a larger company has more experience and knows all the different challenges ahead on manufacturing and things like that. But there's definitely a lot of pressure to deliver and deliver quickly. So but it's just such an exciting time. There's so much innovation. I think this CES is, and last CES, this kind of day and age of wearables, and we're not at swallables yet, but it sounds exciting. It is a really exciting time to be in consumer electronics.
I think that the startup that works quickly to get their first product out and their next product out is usually the one that wins, because at the end of the day, big companies can move fast, but there's a lot of inertia at some points in the bureaucracy or even in deciding which products will get onto the launch calendar. At a small startup, you can iterate much quicker, you can get software out the door, and you can start getting feedback from your users. And I think that, in my opinion, is one of the most important things about launching a product, is starting to get actual hands-on, actual people using it, and people who pay money and people who care effectively about the product.
We've definitely moved to a paradigm for, I think the three of you guys are probably good representations of this idea of hardware as a platform. If you're a company like Google, it might be a little bit easier. You've already got some goodwill there. But is it hard for people to wrap their heads around that idea? Pebble is probably a good example of this question that you get all the time of like, okay, this is neat, but what do I do with it?
My watch has an OS.
Yeah, you have to upgrade your watch. I'd say that we're actually, in the future, going to be looking at using software as our spec sheet. I think that the use cases and the utility of the watch on your wrist should speak to why you're putting it on your wrist. And that's why we decided to partner with a whole bunch of sort of very popular brands and apps and announce them at CES this year. Mainly to help people kind of jumpstart their imagination of what they can do with Pebble on the wrist. Because a lot of the times, from what we hear, is once you get it on your wrist, it doesn't really leave. Mainly because it provides, that consistent notification and app utility. But getting it onto the wrist, yeah, that's still an open challenge, I'd say.
So Michael, why would it have made more sense to have launched with a kind of like a library of different apps you can use with this, or do you need to get it out there and show people how cool it is, and then the developers come?
I think in our case we had to launch with some apps, and that's why we seeded the developer ecosystem with those 10,000 units. And at launch we had about 50 apps. Some were good, others were not as good. Now we're at about 160, and those developers have really learned from what was successful, what was unsuccessful, and they've adapted, and they've also really rushed to fill gaps in the market quickly. So To answer the question, I think you absolutely need some apps to launch, especially for something like Leap, which was never about something that could be plug and play, like controlling the operating system. It was always about how can we use the ability to track the hands and fingers to let people create and play and explore and do things in a fun, different way that wouldn't have been possible with a computer. And some of the first apps that we launched with have started to really break through. And if you search for Leap Motion music on YouTube, there are like 150,000 videos now. So you have to launch with apps and a small group of developers, but there's also a very innovative phase and stage that follows that, where people look at what worked, what didn't work, and developers follow those best practices. Because with anything innovative, whether it's Leap Motion or Oculus or 3D printing, if it hasn't been done before, then people have to try to do it from scratch, and you can't look to best practices.
Yeah, that's I think a key point. In many of the instances here, we're bringing completely new categories and experiences to the world, and so there is no comparable. We're not fulfilling a need that you have. It's not as simple as taking music and moving it to a new platform like iTunes. Because everybody already knew that they loved to download and listen to music. It just created a new experience. Here in many instances, we're imparting a new experience altogether that you don't even know you need. And that requires...
Are you creating the need? Are you creating the need with the release?
We are awakening and teasing out the needs in many of these instances, because we're solving real problems. And many of these inarticulated needs, 5 minutes after you impart them to the universe, become must-haves. And the difference between success and failure is, how do you make it a must-have within an ecosystem with apps in a way that is emotive and compelling, where you recognize that you didn't know you had the need, but after you see it, you must have it.
Well, let's go down, because this is definitely. Again, as people in emerging spaces, this is definitely something you guys get asked all the time. What needs are your individual products fulfilling?
For us, Pebble solves a lot of problems on an ongoing basis. We like to refer to it as not the device that just changes your life when you put it on your wrist, but more of a device that provides tiny moments of awesome behavior throughout your normal week. When I wake up, I check my traffic, I check weather right on my wrist, and then as the day progresses, it becomes useful in different circumstances, from calendars and notifications to even being able to customize and kind of change the look and the feel of the watch. One thing that we're going to be working on really hard over the next year is the idea of contextual apps. For us, we don't think that the best way to work with your watch is actually through interacting with it, like pressing buttons and dodging through menus and stuff like that. We really want to be able to provide an experience that changes automatically as you live your life. So already we've been working with a lot of different sports and activity apps that run on the phone. So when you start using Runkeeper, when you start using Map My Run on your phone, the watch automatically transforms into a sports watch. And I think that's a good example of kind of a tactic that we're going to be using with a bunch of other verticals throughout the year.
What need are you fulfilling with the Rift?
New reality. a
Not
better reality.
good enough.
Yeah, I mean, our experience right now is very focused on gaming and entertainment. I think over time it will kind of evolve and go into communications and medical and architecture and all kinds of different areas. But it's giving you finally the holy grail of virtual reality, which is something that we're all excited about. And there's so many different, it's kind of like an unlimited plate of where it can go.
What's your favorite demo right now?
Valkyrie is a lot of fun. It's being shown at the Intel booth, and it's a space cockpit shooter, dogfighting shooter. But it's the kind of thing that actually, internally, we have, there's another set of prototypes that we haven't revealed yet, and there's one demo internally that...
You got more prototypes?
We have a few more things coming that's really exciting, and I tell people ask, what's your favorite experience, and it's hard to, you don't want to talk about the thing that you can't show anybody.
You should just tell us.
Just whisper.
But it's not even a game. It's just this kind of almost more of a transformative therapeutic experience, and it really shows how VR is going to go far beyond just gaming. You get in it, and everybody who has tried it takes off and goes, oh my God, this is much bigger than I thought. It's not even games.
Gaming is your gateway drug into the Oculus?
Gaming is a hardcore audience of early adopters and enthusiasts and people that are jumping on. And when you think of VR, you kind of initially think either Japanese anime or gaming, or bad movies. So it's something that we're really excited to see where it goes. I mean, we want to enable this community and this ecosystem. Again, I think it's funny to think about a watch having this big ecosystem. I wouldn't think of that initially, but it makes a lot of sense once it's a smartwatch. And certainly for virtual reality, it's all about this ecosystem and this platform that you want to go out and enable developers. You want to enable users. Anybody is a developer, right? Anybody who has the device is in some way a developer, and you want to enable them to go out and create new experiences and new content, new 3D printed experiences. We're certainly big fans of 3D printing. So I think it's, again, just super exciting time to be in this kind of a smart hardware platform world.
Michael, is there a bit of, piece of software, specifically something that like a third-party developer created where you were just like, this is it. This is why we made this. Was there anything that really like made it click for you?
Yeah, I think the category that we're most passionate about is democratizing content creation, because today 99% of what people use their computers for uses 1% of the power inside them, right? People use computers to browse the internet or to type things in Excel or in a Word document. And meanwhile, there's this incredible power that is in these hundreds of millions or billions of computers that everyone has that's untapped. And the original vision for Leap Motion with my co-founder, David, was this frustration with the process of creating a 3D model in a computer. It was frustration with the fact that a 5-year-old with Play-Doh can build something in minutes that looks like a coffee cup, but it takes a professional 3D modeler many times longer than that, right? And a sense that computers are supposed to make us better. Technology is supposed to make us better than reality, better than Play-Doh, but it doesn't. And the missing piece is hands and fingers. It's missing. We interact with computers through binary input, where you're pushing the left mouse button or you're not pushing the left mouse button. But we've evolved this incredible ability with our hands and fingers over thousands of years to do really complex things in a way that's thoughtless and where we can succeed 100% of the time. So that's the magic of hands and fingers. And many of the apps that let people literally do that, reach in and mold a piece of clay, create something from nothing, those are the things we're most passionate about. Clay, music, exploration, education, experiences that just aren't possible with a mouse and keyboard.
Avi, that's one of the huge roadblocks in terms of more mainstream consumer-facing adoption. Obviously, you guys are working on all kinds of different solutions to that. You've got the sculpting software, you've got the 3D scanner, or you've got the new mouse. Does it make sense to work on some kind of unified way of doing that? It seems almost like you're kind of throwing stuff at the wall right now, right?
To us, it's part of what I call the democratization of the digital thread. And it's part of really creating a new literacy between us, the creators, and all of the computing power and the output devices that allows us to make it instinctive, human, gesticular, and even facial, so that we can begin to communicate with all these devices and unleash the power that is locked up in these devices. And it's all about democratizing. And today, I would say what stands in the way of mass adoption of 3D printing is not the user friendliness, affordability, and functionality of 3D printers. We can put parts on airplanes, and we have for a decade. We can implant parts in your body. We now have edibles and ceramics, and of course, we have the kid safe 3D printers at sub $1,000. But the real nut to crack here is the expert user complexity to actually create content. And Michael is absolutely spot on. So we're very excited about force feedback and haptics, and so we're launching here this week, the first 3D mouse that we call the Touch, that allows you to actually touch and feel your design. It's as if you're designing in digital clay, and you can actually grab it and touch it and feel it. We have worked with Leap Motion on some early apps to figure out how to integrate gesturing into meaningful 3D modeling solutions. We're looking at 3D cameras with Intel, and in fact, we have some of our software embedded in the new Intel RealSense device to allow their capture to become 3D printable. And those are all very deliberate moves that begin to weave together the next generation digital thread that allows you to go from ideas in virtual creation to something physical that you hold in your hand. And for me, it's all about unleashing creativity and localizing manufacturing. That's the end of the day, what's gonna happen if all of us collectively succeed in stitching together a truly instinctive and intuitive digital thread.
So let's get back to that original question, because again, you're looking down the road a little bit, and certainly when you're looking at these industrial printers, things that are printing food, things that are printing airplane parts, we all see the case use of something like that. Now that you guys are getting really heavy into the consumer-facing space, I'll open that question up to you. What is the use of a relatively low-end 3D printer that's basically extruding plastic?
I can see dozen of meaningful uses, starting with something that we're showing here this week, which is a digital dollhouse that allows basically kids and their parents to learn how to design and decorate dollhouses. You learn through play, and you play to learn, and you do it by manifesting and bringing to life your ideas in ways that teach you how to design, how to create, and how to build, and how to do it in tangible ways. The same translates in storytelling. We can begin to bring every book and every story to life in a way that you can actually touch it, feel it, experience it, and be immersive in it. We can begin to completely change fashion and how we are accessorizing ourselves by making what we need individually and fit it into our lifestyle. We can completely begin to experience how we do interior decorating, how we bring to life all of our hobbies and passions and pursuits. And the next step after that is personalized nutrition and chocolate and life cycle events and wedding cakes. And these are all real parts of our human condition and consumption patterns since time immemorial. What we're doing here is we're basically allowing everybody to co-create with their favorite brands, to individualize, to stylize, to personalize, and to do it in a way that's made by me, with me, and for me. That's pretty useful because we're all consuming all these items all day, every day. We're just making it more meaningful and personalized.
I think there's also a huge opportunity for entrepreneurship as well. So for example,
new business models, yeah.
A 17-year-old guy posted a Kickstarter last summer where he was making 3D printed Pebble cases that would change the color and change the shape of the watch. And he raised maybe, I think $10,000 or $15,000 on Kickstarter, enough to buy a 3D printer and start mass producing thousands of these little cases. And now he has an online web store where he just sells custom 3D printed cases for Pebble. And I think that that's, an interesting, like you touched on the customizability aspect of it. And I think that more and more people are going to be customizing their electronics in either through the software and through the experience that people have with it or the physical appearance.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, we've been thinking about all the ways to use some of these other innovations and the idea of 3D printing objects, maybe virtual jewelry that you 3D print and you put it on, but in VR it actually looks, gold and shiny. But when you take off the headset, it's now
look at my
plastic.
Look at my wristband there.
All right, there you go.
It's a dumb watch.
It's not a Pebble. It's not a Pebble.
You 3D printed this.
Yeah, it's
That's
3D
awesome.
printed. So we should talk after the show.
So it's
It's all happening right here.
It could
And
have
do it live.
gold and diamonds. It could have diamonds on it in VR. Watch out, Pebble. No, it's very exciting.
We need a Pebble.
That's one of the things I appreciate that you guys are doing as a company, because I think you're in an industry right now. I mean, as you said, you're extending beyond gaming, but at least for the moment, you're pretty firmly entrenched in gaming, and you're going after gamers and game developers. But it seems like that industry, in particular, the large players have taken development for granted, right? I mean, I think that's been one of the issues with a lot of these larger consoles that have come out. Is they come out, companies work for a really long time on all the specs, on all the hardware, bring it out, and there are no games available for it. You guys are working pretty hard on making sure that there's a really good gaming experience on the Oculus.
We are. I mean, it's all about kind of content selling hardware. Unless that hardware has a utility function, maybe a 3D printer comes out and it doesn't need this huge category of software to play with it. It needs a few utilities and tools, and then you can use it. For our product, we need a lot of content. For a console, you need a lot of content. We're very excited about what the console guys are doing, but it's a lot of the same, but faster or higher resolution. And I think what's been missing in that gaming space is that the creativity side of things hasn't been able to innovate and evolve as fast as or as much as developers wanted it to. Developers have been kind of stuck with this 2D monitor and a keyboard, mouse, or a gamepad experience for a really long time.
Or a console for 8 to 10 years now. I mean, the
Right,
cycle
or
is
a console.
extending.
And game budgets are getting higher, so the games are becoming, not necessarily less creative, but they're more sequel-based, and they're more doing the things that we know work on a console, just more better. And you really want innovation. You want to go out there, you want to do something new, and with virtual reality, it's a 360 canvas. It's totally new. In fact, what has worked in the past typically doesn't work in VR, and we've tried that. We ported games over, other developers ported games over, thinking, I can't wait to jump into Half-Life or Call of Duty or something like that.
Though the Mario Kart demo was pretty awesome.
Mario Kart's good, yeah. So some games work better than others, but it is this new experience where I don't think we'll see really the full awesomeness of virtual reality, even for a few years. I mean, it takes people a while to create content. I think it was Nintendo came out in '83, and then it was 2 years later before Super Mario showed up, and suddenly it was side-scrolling games. The original game on Nintendo was Mario Brothers, the original, which was like Donkey Kong, and it didn't scroll the side of the screen didn't scroll, and so suddenly this whole new category shows up. I think in our case, virtual reality, it's just at the very beginning. It's about to explode and unleash. Same with motion control and watches and smartwatches and and 3D printing. We're just at the beginning of some of these categories where we don't really know what it's going to be all about in the future, and it's incredibly exciting to see. It's not even going to be, it's not going to be us that creates those, ultimate holy grail experiences. It's going to be the community and the ecosystem that creates that.
But Michael and Eric, I mean, the flip side of that hardware innovation is the idea of creating this one object that you keep around for a while, that you don't have to buy a new Pebble every couple of years, that you don't have to upgrade the internals on your laptop in order to get new motion controlling.
Probably buy a new Pebble pretty often.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what you had told me before, that in terms of innovation, that again, that you guys are working on the software side of things, right? That you're not looking to necessarily iterate the specs every year or so.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for providing a consistent platform for developers to begin building against. I think that there's a lot of fragmentation in the market, and for someone who's hacking away on the weekend, constantly having to upgrade and change your dev environment to hit the latest and greatest, it's a bit rough. And so we're looking at technologies like JavaScript that allow people to be able to create cross-platform apps and cross-platform watch apps, instead of having to dive down right into the embedded code. I think that on the sort of evolution of a platform side, we're looking also at how our product exists in concert with other things that people already have around their house, around their car, or on their body, or on their bike, sensors as well as sort of connected systems. So for example, we launched an app that works with GoPro, and the idea that Pebble can control your GoPro while it's on your helmet or on the side of your bike or on the side of your car means that your existing technology just becomes better because you can start connecting it to more and more things.
Michael, how difficult is it for, are developers by their nature early adopters? I mean, I assume that a lot of them wait for for this to be like, really a successful thing in order for them to develop for it, because you really have to, for something like motion controlling, I mean, you've got to kind of throw away the rules, right? You've got to start from scratch. It's a lot different than just creating a smartphone app.
Yeah, the fact that you have to start from scratch and be really creative is both the greatest obstacle, but also the biggest reason why so many developers are attracted to us as a platform, I think. So, yes, you can't just take something that you've already built and port it over. You have to really think through, how can I use this to enable experiences that wouldn't have been possible with the mouse or keyboard or existing input devices? How can I really take advantage of physicality and fingers and 3D space? But I think developers are attracted to that. I think so many of the developers that are working on Leap, yes, they want to create businesses. Yes, they want to sell the app. But most importantly, they want to be innovative. And whether it's a couple of guys in a garage or a large company, they want to be able to create something for the first time that's truly new. And I think that's really hard with existing form factors. If you're building a first-person shooter for the PC, 98% of what it is already defined. How you move, how you shoot, what it looks like, what the levels are like, that all has been written over the past 20 years.
For a 2D monitor.
Yeah, so you only get to tell 2% of the story. But as things change fundamentally, it's a lot harder, and you have to be a lot smarter, and you have to be willing to take risks, but there's this enormous opportunity to really innovate and to create something that then will be followed by the next 20 years of people.
Brendan, I was at a panel at E3 the panel was literally just developers talking about how excited they were about the Oculus Rift. It was like 5 developers sitting on stage talking about how this was going to change everything they do.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to necessarily convince developers or a community that this is a new thing that you want to be excited about. We just have to convince them that it finally works, and it's going to work well enough that consumers are going to want to buy it and have a great experience. And I think we're starting to do a pretty good job of that, and people are showing up. But again, it is this kind of new platform. You need new content. We always say you need made for VR, made for Oculus content. You can't just take an existing app and port it over. I think the same is true for motion control. Certainly on a watch, you're not going to port a PC app to a watch. You're going to need a new app, a new experience there. And the same is certainly true for virtual reality. You have this new canvas. It opens up all these new doors, but you've got to write software that takes advantage of those. And you really need to think about doing that from the beginning. So you got to inspire this kind of creativity and innovation. You got to get developers making this stuff. Most developers in the game space, it's surprising how often we hear, I got into gaming to one day make VR, to one day make virtual reality. And it's been the stepping stone to finally get there. And that's a great place to be, because we are finally going to get there. It's not the holodeck yet. I mean, it's going to take some number of years to get there. We'll probably get there. But it is a very exciting place to be, and same with motion control. People have been thinking about Minority Report for a long time. It didn't work until the last year or two, where it finally started to work. And it's just at the beginning. We say it's day 0. It's just barely starting to work. I think even for the Pebble Watch, you guys launched and you had a certain piece of software there, and suddenly you put out an update, and all the news I've been hearing, and we play with watches inside, is that the new update changes everything, and suddenly it opens all these doors, and it's this much better experience. So it's this beginning that now will evolve very quickly and iterate very quickly, and it'll only get a lot better.
Again, we can go down and name like a science fiction corollary to something all of you guys are doing right now.
Dick Tracy.
Yeah, or
Johnny
if there's a Star Trek version of pretty much everything on
Yeah.
on stage right now. When there's a corollary like that, people have to have crazy, unrealistic expectations about what these things can do, right?
Yeah, I think it in some ways that's true, and in other ways it hasn't been true. One of the great things about doing something that has lived on in science fiction for a long time is that there already is an army of people, consumers, developers, that have been dreaming about this coming to life for a long time, and those people are really willing to help you, and they want you to succeed. And I think that deep desire on the part of millions of people for us to succeed is something that's true for us, and it's true for everyone up here. And that's very, very powerful, and can't be underestimated, I think. But people definitely do have very high expectations, and I don't think that when someone shows something in science fiction, they're showing the platform and the ecosystem, and even sometimes showing things that aren't really that viable as a consumer product. Like Minority Report was built to look cool, but it's not ergonomic. It's based on these huge movements. So I don't think there is ever total alignment between science fiction and consumer products, and certainly there is an expectations gap between science fiction telling us what these products can be and where they are on day zero. But I think that pales in comparison to the huge benefit of this enormous army of people that want it to succeed and are willing to help you do what it takes to succeed.
Well, I think in many ways science fiction shapes, inspires, and informs a direction, and gives you, at least on a gut level, emotional basis, a vision to strive for. In my experiences over decades of doing this, the ultimate manifestation of those visions far exceeds what was imparted in a science fiction movie, which is good. And we have to be open to the fact that along the journey, there'll be many discoveries that were not intended, that were not imagined. Some of them will far exceed anything that we thought. Others will be ditches on the journey that we're going to fall into. And it takes a great deal of perseverance on top of all the technology and the collective wisdom of excited developers. It takes real courage and a great deal of perseverance on the part of you guys, to actually sift through it, stay the course, continue to dig out from all the ditches on the journey, and actually deliver something that is awesome. And you guys are all doing it, and that's, perseverance is a big part of this high-tech consumer journey.
And reset expectation. I think you got
along the journey as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if people are used to the Star Trek replicator, do people have unrealistic expectations about what you can do with a $2,000 3D printer?
If that's their starting point today, probably so. But by the same token, we're going to have all of the incredible unimagined, and we will also have some of the unintended, right, as we begin to experience with some 3D printed guns, and we're going to have the counterfeiting. And so, I mean, we need to understand that with all these amazing technologies that could unleash unimaginable making good opportunities and enhancements to our lifestyle, we're also going to have all the unintended, all of the illegal, all of the issues that actually continue to underscore that as a society we're falling further and further behind the comprehension of what this technology can do and how it challenges our legal infrastructure, our regulatory infrastructure, our
Financial
adaptability.
infrastructure, yeah.
And we need to come to grips with that too, because we are moving at lightning speed, and the comprehension of society is not in lockstep with all the possibilities, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And you don't think about, I mean, now I'm just super excited about 3D printing my own Pebble case or Pebble watch, a band or something. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I think the sci-fi community hasn't thought of that now is about to happen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have
Right.
thought of 3D printing my own, watch band or watch case with a smartwatch. I mean, that's super cool, and it's going to lead to all these different things. So it is balancing expectation and then also kind of monitoring and helping to reinvest in the community to push out the ideas that turn out to be, incredible, that you didn't think of originally, that the community comes up with. The idea of Pebble announcing a partnership with a 3D printing company just wouldn't make sense to me until I see the watch. I'm like, God, that makes so much sense.
It's the next big alliance.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So,
The interesting thing about the topic of this panel, we went back and forth a little bit, and certainly what I like to do in my job is think really far ahead. I mean, obviously that's the exciting thing to do, right? To think about where we'll be in 10, 20 years. But I think that by calling it CES 2015, we're tempering expectations a little bit and really asking, what things are going to be like, a year from now, what we're actually going to be seeing at next year's show. So we're running out of time right now, but I'd like to really take this opportunity to have everybody here, without. I mean, you can spill some secrets, that's fine with me, but without spilling too many secrets, tell me what you see yourselves doing. Where do you see your particular industry, your space, where you see it moving in the next 12 months? What CES 2015 is going to be like for you?
So for us, I think, as I mentioned before, we're focusing quite heavily on apps this year. When we talk to people about Pebble and when we hear feedback from early users, a lot of the times it's one particular aspect of the product or one app or one use case that just lights people's eyes up. But the interesting thing for us is it's a long list of things, and it doesn't actually, there's less overlap than you might think. Obviously, there's sort of the core use case with notifications, but even from that, there's some people that just get amazed when they say that Pebble can be used as a swim tracker because it's waterproof, or other people that say, now when I go out with friends, I know exactly who's going to come because I can get text messages right on my wrist. So there's a long tail of use cases, and I think by 2015, along with our work on the App Store, you're going to find it much easier to discover what that particular use case for you might be with Pebble. And it's our job to figure out how we can actually help market that to people.
we're hoping to get a lot closer to the consumer product. That's the biggest question. When are you going to ship?
Yeah.
And we really haven't shipped a consumer product yet, and so we've shipped a developer kit. We're certainly excited to get as close as we can to the consumer product, and at some point in the next 12, 24 months, put that out and have virtual reality finally arrive. And we have a pretty good idea of how good it can be. People haven't even seen that yet. We're showing a version here at the show that's very close to where it can be, but it's not quite there. It's actually going to be even better, and it's surprising to see how much better it can be. So we're just really excited to see virtual reality arrive for the first time, get it out, and see the kind of consumer end user community show up, and people get very excited to start playing games and enter a new reality.
Michael?
I think for us, it's about continuing the transition to embedding into new form factors. So there are already the 12 HPCUs and other partnerships on the PC side that we've announced. There'll definitely be more progress on that, but also embedding into new form factors, whether it's tablets or phones, or even things like cars and form factors that don't exist or aren't commercially available now.
Yeah, it's 1 minute and 40 seconds to tell me what you're doing next year, Avi.
You got
24
it.
products?
24 products in 24 hours. For us, it's going to be about what room in your house will your 3D printer reside.
Not whether you're going to have
Not
a 3D
whether
printer in
you're
your
going to
house.
have it, but what room in your house will it be? Will it be in your den? Will it be in your man cave?
Kitchen,
Will it be in
chocolate.
your kitchen for sure?
Bathroom?
Will it be in your wardrobe? Will it be in the classroom? So it's all about mainstreaming. It's all about making 3D printing part of popular culture by CES 2015.
Avi, Michael, Brendan, Eric, thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining us.